Thanks for clicking. Distressed deals are starting to pile up in Canada's real estate market as appraisals continue to come in short and buyers are unable to fulfill their obligations. This according to a new report by Bloomberg. As we discussed in our Don't Get Sued video, when the market shifts, buyers can get caught up in the middle, and as a result of that shift, be forced into the legal process when their financing falls short.
So it begins.
But this report is showing that some sellers are starting to step up to the plate, lowering the price of their homes just to get the deal closed, which in and of itself creates its own problems and issues for the real estate market going forward. So what I want to do today is go over this report from Bloomberg, look at its implications for the Canadian real estate market, and then discuss what to look for next. Speaking of what to look for next, mortgage rates surged this week, and we're going to be having our monthly update on the best mortgage rates next week. Not to mention the release of the inflation data coming out on Wednesday, which will obviously have an update on that as well. If you want to get those updates, make sure you click like and subscribe. But for now, let's get into this report. Bloomberg begins by looking at a home buyer that purchased a home in Toronto in March for $920,000. However, by the time the lender ordered the appraisal, which was completed in May, the value had dropped to $800,000. Upon appeal and a second appraisal, that value dropped again to $740,000. So in just a little over 2 months, a $180,000 drop. While the buyers were technically legally bound to fulfill their $920,000 obligation to the home sellers, they pleaded with the seller and they came to a settled price of $810,000, which just recently closed. And this buyer was definitely one of the lucky ones, depending on how you look at it, as their house was actually able to close. Toronto lawyer Greg Weedon said that in the past few weeks alone, he's had 20 files hit his desk where buyers were unable to close and were thus in breach of contract. And this is what we talked about in April. When values drop fast and appraisals follow suit, buyers are unable to fulfill their obligations and the lawyers get involved.
Nobody listened to me.
This happened in 2018 when Toronto's real estate market reversed substantially. The courts got involved, and we saw in case after case that the courts continually upheld the rights of the sellers over the buyers, ordering in numerous cases that the buyers pay damages to the home sellers after the buyers were unable to fulfill their obligations. But as we just saw, there very well might be another element, another factor in this process that wasn't present in 2018. And that's COVID. There's currently a major backlog in the court system due to the lockdowns, the shutdowns, everything moving in general much slower. So even if these cases were to be heard in court, it's likely that they wouldn't be heard for years and years down the road, as the court slowly but surely gets rid of its backlog. So these sellers, while they do have the opportunity to sue, they might not be able to sue for quite some time. So this is definitely adding another element to this process that we just didn't see in 2018. So although the courts have consistently ruled in favor of the home sellers when these cases have gone to court, sellers could be on the hook waiting for years and years to come as the court tries to remove its backlog. Though I don't have firsthand knowledge of the case that we just talked about, that one outlined by Bloomberg, you can imagine that although the seller had a right to $920,000, the house had just appraised by $740,000. So there's a good chance they were highly motivated to get that property sold.
Wow, a lot of people seem very motivated.
As if they relisted, it's unlikely that they were even going to get that $740,000 with home values dropping so fast. But that case very well could have been a unique one, in that some sellers need every dollar from their list price in order to put the down payment on their house. They might not have the breathing room to negotiate if their own buyers fall through on their financing. So when this happens, it can very well cause a chain reaction where the buyer's financing falls through, and as a result, that seller's financing falls through, and on and on and on it goes until it gets to the lawyers. So Canada's real estate market has changed in the past few months, and it's continuing to change very rapidly. Home buyers, especially if they are putting 20% down, need to have an appraisal condition included in their offer to purchase in order to avoid these major headaches, these potential lawsuits that are already coming down the pipe as the home values continue to plummet. And as we saw in this case, by a substantial amount, $180,000 in just 2 months. And sellers need to reevaluate their strategies as well. Over the past few years, sellers could buy a house with confidence that their own house would sell within a couple of days, maybe 7 days at the most. So they could very well rely on that down payment. And that's not really the case anymore. So it could be the time, it could be that we have shifted where sellers might want to consider selling their house first. And once those financing conditions are removed, once they know that sale is 100%, nothing's 100%, until they know that sale is 99.99% firm, then they can go buy their house. We very well may have switched into that buyer's market where it's time for sellers to really reevaluate the whole process of selling and moving into a new house. If you're a home buyer, the only thing motivating you to buy now rather than a month from now is mortgage rates. As mortgage rates continue to go up, so do the cost of borrowing, so do the cost of borrowing, and so does mortgage qualification standards, which obviously has a big impact on buying power. We will have an update out on the best mortgage rates coming out in June. We'll have that update out next week. If you want to get those updates, make sure you click like and subscribe, and thanks so much for watching.